Hey guys, Jack from Half Chrome. I just got the Jumper T12 radio. It's very similar to one of my favorites, the Jumper T8SG Plus. I'm going to talk about this one and how it's different from that, plus some other radios. And, with all these different radios, how do you know which one you should get? Well, I'll help you out. All right, so let's start with this Jumper T12. It's very similar to the T8SG Plus, which I really like. How is it different? Well, the biggest difference is software. It actually runs something called OpenTX software, and then this one here runs deviation software. The nice thing about these two radios is they work with hundreds or thousands of different drones. Now, if you fly a DJI Phantom or a Mavic or a Unique Breeze or something like that, those come with remotes. You don't have to worry about binding and setting up a remote control. But if you fly small drones, micros, whoops, racers, anything like that, now you're going to have to find your very own radio to do that. Now, how do you know? Do you want one of these or do you want something else? So if you're flying a toy grade quadcopter, something like a SEMA or an eSheen, UDI, Force One, any of those, the remotes a lot of times they come with aren't the best and is a limiting factor in range. Adding one of these multi-protocol radios will give you better range and better feel, so I highly recommend that. First, let's talk about this T12. All right, it is a smaller radio. All of the Jumper radios are, so you kind of have to keep that in mind. The gimbals are potentiometers, not Hall sensors like the T8 Plus. That's kind of not a bad thing, but it's just not quite as good. The LCD screen is a little bit smaller. The biggest difference is the software. It's running OpenTX. OpenTX is what I run on my FrSky receivers. This is the QX7, probably my favorite and the one I would recommend to beginners that want a FrSky radio. So if you're familiar with FrSky or OpenTX on something like this, then that's the same software you're going to run on here. The other difference is that it actually is a module in the back with all the different protocols. So what am I talking about protocols? All of these different drones have different remote controls and different protocols to communicate between the radio and the receiver. So on the Jumper T12, it's actually this module here with the antenna that allows you to communicate with the different drones, whether it's a FrSky or a FlySky or DSMX. What am I talking about? Again, protocols. Each different drone has its own protocol. So the remote by itself doesn't actually have anything in there that's going to communicate with your drone. It's all in this module. So if I really wanted, I could take this module out of this one and throw it in one of my Taranises. Now the Jumpers are really nice, but I'm probably not going to recommend the T12 unless you really like OpenTX and you want a smaller radio, then this is a good fit. But in actuality, the other Jumper, the T8SG Plus, is a better radio. This is a better radio. The gimbals are much nicer. The LCD screen is OLED and it's a little bit larger. It's just a nicer radio in general. And I really like this for flying multiple different quads. My FrSky is probably my go-to remote, but it's limited only to drones that have FrSky receivers. So this, I can fly anything with FrSky or FlySky or DSMX. What am I talking about? Here's an example. This drone here has a DSMX receiver. That means it's only going to work with a Spectrum remote, something like this. This is the cheapest Spectrum remote you can get, and I don't really like it. There's no LCD screen. It's hard to tell what you're doing. Not a big fan of this remote. This is actually a FlySky receiver in here. It's generally a little bit more inexpensive, and I paired this thing to the Jumper because I'm not a big fan of the i6 FlySky remote that I have. I also have this Fat Shark remote, which also does FlySky, which is kind of interesting. So either way, I'm gonna fly this with that yellow Jumper. And then this right now, it's snowed outside. This is my indoor whoop of choice, the UAV 65 brushless little motors. It's a whoop style. This is a FrSky. I'm gonna fly this on my Taranis. I actually have also flown this on the Jumper. It works on both because the Jumpers are multi-protocol. You can see I've got a bunch of drones behind me, and a lot of them I can fly on either one of those Jumpers. Now this is actually the remote that I prefer to fly drones with, but most of the time it's very limited to just FrSky drones or FrSky receivers. But what I could do is add this module that actually was in my Jumper or order it separately, and I can put it on the back of this radio here. Once I update my firmware, I can then fly drones on different protocols with my FrSky remote. I prefer this green one over the XD9 because it's cheaper. It's really a nice quality. It feels good. I like the color as well. But this is kind of the go-to, or at least was the go-to for many FPV drone racers for quite some time. I see guys flying with this now. Not so much with the Jumper, but you absolutely can. So when it comes right down to it, there are two radios or remotes that I would recommend. Either this Jumper T8SG Plus or this Taranis QX7. Now it depends. Are you really into racing? Go with this one here. Most of the racers, micro quads, things that you want to fly are FrSky compatible. This is kind of like the default anyway. Run an OpenTX. If you're not sure or you want something that's smaller, go with the Jumper T8SG Plus. Again, you can fly everything that I can with this on this here, plus others. I can fly Spectrum, FlySky, Hubsan, eSheen, Bayang, lots of different protocols on this thing. And I do like these gimbals. Now they're a little bit smaller, so if you're a pincher, maybe not the best. If that's the case, then you buy one of these modules. So in terms of price, the Jumper here is going to cost you between $115 and $125. The Taranis here is going to cost you between $125 and $150. Then if you actually wanted multi-protocol, you could add this module, which is roughly another 40 bucks. So which remote do you want? Well, it kind of depends on you, but one of these two is probably my go-to remote for most people. I think for 99% of the population, this is what you want. The big exception are people that love Horizon Hobby stuff, tiny whoops, things like that. You're gonna want a Spectrum remote or one of these. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out on halfcrone.com as well as dronedj.com. Happy flying.